I think we are maturing nowadays, but even then it was just like everything was about the gray stuff, the shady tactics, and I really felt like, okay, that's not what growth hacking is supposed to be.
When we look into all of the learnings over the years, right, what do successful companies have in common?
They have this growth experiment spreadsheet on the website that alone has like 3,000 downloads just from the blog. That's like one of the main ways how people upgrade from there.
So SEO help you then to get at least those first customers through the door.
Multiple growth teams at once. We work a Google spreadsheet. And it's like sales teams have a CRM, support teams have proper tools. Everyone has it. And then we as growth teams, like we like to be hacky, and therefore everyone is working in like spreadsheets or self-built Airtable and Notion. Analytics is dying, I think, at this point. So it's any like hard data, measuring it in the right way. It's becoming a main bottleneck for a lot of companies. Like they make huge projects out of it. And I think with privacy settings, ad blockers, everything in there, it becomes like almost impossible to actually measure it correctly.
If you ever got another idea and you happen to experience the same market conditions, are you going to dive in with the knowledge that you have to dive in again?
All right, welcome to a new episode of the Growth Syndicate podcast. So today we have Ward van Gasteren, do as good as I can. So you are a consultant, so you have companies like TikTok, Pepsi, Cisco. You also are the co-author of, I'm going to say it right this time, Growing Happy Clients. And at the same time, you create a company called Growth Orange, which is an experimentation tool where you help, I'm assuming, companies and growth teams. Welcome to the episode.
Yeah. Thanks. Happy to be here on is it still the Grow with the Flow podcast?
Yeah, we're playing around with different names. So I think in every episode now we try something different. So
that's good. Yeah, that's great.
No, but to be honest, we also want to rebrand it a bit and split it into two parts. I think that's okay to have it in the podcast, but in the near future, we want to have TGS founders and TGS experts, go-to-market practitioners, whatever, simply because then we can double down on different topics that are more relevant for either the founders, like building cool stuff. Yeah, and then we can also focus on cool things like SEO. So
cool. So the first question that we ask all our guests is, okay, what is your origin story? Go as far as you want. There are people who start like 2 years ago, and people start like, I was born in that place in 1985. So go as far as you can.
Yeah. No, so I had started before in entrepreneurship education. So I sold workshops and lesson plans to high schools. So that was already me building a business of my own, self-educating and teaching everything about ads, building a website, everything that comes in play there. And then at some point I ran into the concept of funnels, pirate funnels, growth hacking, and that was a completely new thing, just popping up in Silicon Valley, was not a thing here yet. So really intrigued me, and I got more into it. And at that point, I also found okay, that's I found the whole business interesting, but operation was very repetitive. So at some point, I chose to make the switch to growth hacking freelancer. Yeah, that's now 11 years ago already. So I started out really deep into execution, just me doing the whole grow process, setting up any kind of experiments, learning myself how to do tracking, building websites, proper design, etc. And then slowly moved into more of the strategy, purely coaching, strategy, consulting. And nowadays I'm moving back a bit into more the execution, but more with that strategic mindset. Yeah. And at some point I started a blog just because I thought that's should be here. And there was a lot of growth hacking was I think we are maturing nowadays, but even then it was just like everything was about the gray stuff and the shady tactics. And I really felt like, okay, that's not what growth hacking is supposed to be. And in between there, I also got into the very first Grow Tribe class. Said that they are gone now, but it was the very first one with Dave in the front of class, and that was a really nice experience. After that, I also wanted to write some of those blogs, and it was what is growth hacking or best growth hacking agencies, just to create some resources online for people who want to learn the proper way. And that just really took off. So I had no idea that there was so much search traffic. It was basically zero search volume on anything related to growth hacking, except for the main term. It quickly grew to I think at the height it was 25,000 readers per month from SEO. And that was, and from there, that has been 11 years of client work just coming in purely inbound and word of mouth. So like that.
So SEO helped you then to get at least those first customers through the door.
Yeah, definitely, and still does. It's still main channel for me. I mean, I think that my conversion rates are super low. And that's not at all what I'm focused on, because it's of course it's generic people coming in. If you Google what is growth hacking, it's a long way from there to I want to hire a growth hacking consultant. But even then, as a solo freelancer, I can have I work with 2-3 clients at a max at once, and it's so I can do 6 or 8 clients in a year, maybe a few extra workshops. That's it. So out of 25,000 people a month on the website, I only have to get 2-3 calls out of it, and then it's already
you're not looking to have 100 clients at any given time, right?
I can't even. So over time I created some extra content, courses and other stuff to help all the other 25,000 minus 3 people, and that's what the Grow with Ward brand is nowadays.
Nice. Are you still doing it alone, or do you have a team now that helps you as well with certain execution or certain parts?
Still doing it alone. Don't want to grow it into an agency or anything like that. Do consider hiring a few people maybe next year, but just not on the execution or consulting side, but purely on the content side, just for branding, brand building.
Nice. Let's dive deep a little bit more towards the learnings from all of the years, because as you mentioned, I didn't know that you had a venture beforehand, trying to educate people and whatsoever. When we look into all of the learnings over the years, right? What do successful companies have in common? What are the patterns that you noticed?
Small ego is a very big thing. So it's a lot of the companies that I work for, if they are very convinced of how things work and it's very much in there, it takes down your speed, it takes down how open-minded you are for new opportunities, and very often it's just trying out new stuff. And if you have a big ego, you want everything to be perfect. So I see in my own business, but also with clients, it's if you just, it's more experiments, trying more things, you get more growth. So it's that easy.
How do you battle then? Sorry, I really want to get into that part then. How do you overcome that situation when there is an ego, on the way to, moving the needle? What have you tried in the past and things like this?
So a big benefit for me, of course, as a smaller consultant, I don't have to hire everyone. So it's a bit of a filter for me. I have a few clear red flags that I know beforehand. Even if I get an email in from someone, I can instantly see if there are red flags.
What would be that?
It's stuff like people claiming a lot of big numbers already up front, and that they are the next big thing. Versus being hey, we want to grow. We think we're onto something nice or something great, or we're doing well. That's also good. But it's if you're we got these big investment rounds and it's all the claims of how big you are, that's a bit of a red flag for me.
The classic thing, we have 12 customers, but by the end of this year, we want to be the next unicorn.
Even that, right? Or most of we want to focus on being there for everyone, but at the same time, a mass product. But currently we only have one big corporate client and they're bringing all the revenue. It's you just got lucky ones, and then the rest 100%. Was there.
So from what I see, you advise or you consulted with companies, quite big companies, right? So PepsiCo, TikTok's also, more bigger brands, already multinational companies. And I'm assuming you're also working with smaller startups or scale-ups. What is the difference in approach? Because I'm assuming, you don't have same resources, same team, same knowledge in-house. So how does your role differs in your consultancy between those smaller startup scale-up versus those big corporates?
So I have basically 2 or 3 ways how I work with clients. So on one hand, I do workshops, maybe sometimes paired with the second option of coaching. So then it's more weekly by weekly coaching sessions. And then that is more suitable oftentimes for corporates. They have a big team. I just help them get to a certain level and then sustaining that. For more startups, it's also the coaching is great, and it's just like you just need a little bit of more in-depth knowledge to get started. And then I also do a lot, one or two execution projects at any time. So it's really me being hands-on there. That can either be I take on all of the marketing and everything for like a startup, like I rebuild the website, set up all the ads, all the tracking, everything, just a one-man army, or I take on like a head of growth interim role if it's like for maternity leave or anything like that.
Yeah.
So like the difference between a startup and a corporate in that sense is most of the time it's more like on how risky do you need to be versus how risk averse. And I think for startups, it's like very often you have nothing to lose. You have not implemented most of the best practices. So very often you can take a lot of big leaps there. Yeah. Like just setting up better lead magnets, a better landing page, just even like there is no social proof on the website, stuff like that. And there it's just implementing. Just go. You don't even have to experiment at that time. And then later on, of course, when you get to more risky stuff, then you should start testing and experimenting before big investments. For corporates, it's more like you have a lot to lose here already. Most best practices are already implemented. So they have to be a lot more risk averse. But even then, it's still, in both cases, it's still like if you do more, you grow more. Yeah. So just make sure that you keep pushing it in the right direction. You need to know which direction you have to go. And then it's creating a backlog and going through it.
Nice.
But or any specific direction you were looking for?
I want to dive maybe a little bit more growth teams and how do you form growth teams in both environments? Because I know different growth leaders have different approach towards that. Some people deploy like a growth manager as a hub pretty much, and then they pull people. But I know some people also would like to become the hub themselves as a growth leaders. So how would you then build the growth teams within those two environments?
Yeah, for startups, I'm talking about like up to 20 people, like that level. Like you don't like the
really early stage.
You don't really, it's really early stage. So it's most of the time it's not you build out a proper growth team or anything. It's just you take in. Like I try to be mindful when working with a company. Like I've had a few clients like TikTok, for example. They came in and they just had like, okay, we have this whole advertiser problem. We want to grow faster, get more advertisers. So like money is not an issue. We just like they set up 20 growth teams at once based on different geographies across the world. Like that's different from like most early stage startups where I'm more like, hey, like I can take on some of the execution or try to have one generalist within the team who can set up a lot of things and then support them with specialist roles within the company. So you might have you need a marketer here, someone from development, someone from sales, just supporting. But it's most of the time it's more like looking at what the backlog needs at that moment. But in most cases, like a great experiment, try to keep it within like 2 days of execution. Try to keep it small. So if a generalist is not able to set it up themselves, you're probably already making it too difficult. So like in early stage startups, you don't really need a proper formulated growth team, just a few people who have a few hours every week. Yeah, and then if you go into the corporate, it's highly dependent on what is your OMTM at this moment. Like where do you want to focus your attention, your one metric that matters? If it's a lot into SEO, if it's a lot into product, it really demands different roles within a growth team.
Can you give some examples if possible, or like the focusing on product, the as you mentioned on TikTok, there is like a lot of advertising. Like, can you share a little bit more for examples that are related to those companies?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So for an SEO growth team, like you like it. Okay. So there's also like a difference basically in is your growth team like in an exploring phase or in an exploiting phase, right? So if we have no idea what is working, but we have this bottleneck to overcome, you're more in exploring phase. Then especially you need more generalist people. So we want to get SEO working is a different question versus we know that SEO is going to be a big thing and we want to exploit this tactic to the max. So having someone with a background in SEO is nice. I don't even think in that case you need like a proper analyst or anything. You do need like a subject matter expert in the team and someone who is willing, eager to actually write and check all the content. Those are like the roles in that case that you want to have inside a team. I don't really think you need a designer at that point. But if you go into the exploiting phase, you're like, okay, what are all the steps within this process of pushing out as much content as possible? So you need a writer, subject matter expert, designer. You can basically say how many hours per article do we need from each role. And based on that, you create this more growth team. But I think it's also like it almost goes away from a growth team to an SEO team in that case already.
What is the main mistakes that you see between startups and like more established companies that they make when it comes to growth or marketing? Did you notice already some patterns or some common traits, the most common mistakes they made?
I think a lot of startups really think of either they really go into like, we saw these tactics work at other companies.
Yeah.
We copy what tactics work at others and then implement them for us instead of looking at what works for other companies, understanding the principles behind it and implementing those. Or really thinking like, okay, we need to be everywhere where those bigger companies are also at. So we need to be we need to have a podcast, we need to have ads, we need to have content, we need to have everything. And then at the same time, like you're spreading too thin all across the way. While most startups I could see, like you can easily go to 2 million, 5 million ARR based on just like one main channel that is working well. And most companies, one of the biggest mistakes is that you hold on to the tactics that worked okay. Like it's like it didn't work badly. Like a podcast can be a perfect example of like it's nice, isn't really taking off, but it's nice, and we think we should keep doing it. But it's like a big time investment, takes away a lot of what you could be putting into this exploiting phase. For corporate growth teams, it's legal is bigger killer. But most of the time I work with more mature growth teams there. So that's a easier side where not that much goes wrong.
I think the main mistake that startups guys make is focusing on too many SCPs. Well, you should actually focus on one, prove one, do everything for one SCP, and then you can build on top. We also notice, and I think I agree with you, this is especially for the really early stage startups, maybe first time founders are like, okay, we're going to do SEO, SEA, thought leadership, we're going to do content, we're going to do events, and they have a budget of like 2,000 euros a month, and they have like one person running the full show. So I think it's also important for companies to say, okay, let's test several things at the beginning, let's see where we get traction, and let's focus our effort, I say, in one, maybe two channels max, and then you can build on top of that. So I think that's something I noticed. And for bigger companies, I'm also assuming, because you said that the legal issue is a big one, I totally agree with you. Yeah. And how about as well, I would say speed and velocity, because there's a lot of, I would say, politics, stakeholder alignment. You need to get a long process. There's a lot of people involved in decisions. Does that also slow down a bit your work when you work with bigger companies, or is it something that you manage to go around it?
Yeah. So what I always aim for is we agree together on like what will be the bigger goal that we go after. So it's like revenue or increased traffic or MQLs, anything. That is like more of a longer term target. We want to get there over time, but we just understand that there won't be a linear process of like increasing it every week up to like 10 weeks and this 10% every week. No, it's more of a maybe experiment number 30 will be the big win there, and suddenly we get to the target. Yeah. But we do have to get to experiment number 30. So it's more of like all of the shorter term targets are all around process. So it's like how many learnings are we getting? How many experiments are we running like on a weekly basis? And it's simple. If you know how big the team is, you can calculate exactly how many experiments you could be running per week. Yeah. And it's all about that. If you can push at that, and then also that also puts in line of like what are roadblockers not because legal is not a roadblocker for the revenue targets, but it is a roadblocker for the velocity of the team. So that's like a perfect example of like how you align all of the other stakeholders to also understand like, okay, the design team should really uphold the standard of where design should be. But if they are becoming a roadblocker for our experiment velocity, then we need to have a discussion with them. While it's never like they are never hurting revenue. So if you only talk about revenue, then they are not a problem. But otherwise, CEOs, CMOs are always way more eager to help you and understand what is working. And think about workarounds. Like, could we run this experiment in a smaller state so that it doesn't, legal doesn't care about it? Or is it like a smaller thing, then design will be okay with it for now? And it's like that.
Nice. Very good.
Defining minimum valuable experiment in that sense, like go scrappy, test it fast, and then scale that experiment later down the line.
Yeah, that also really helps with convincing indeed like design teams and legal teams. Like it's fine. Like we can make it all perfect and fitting to brand guidelines. I recently had a client where we wanted to test like a HR self-assessment, and we knew that it was going to take months to set it up in the right way within the website. To get the right questions, to get the scoring aligned, to publish it out there and promote it. It's going to take ages. And then I think like we said, like, okay, we just want to know if people are even interested in the assignment at all, if they would fill it in, if those leads are interesting as well. So just positioning it as we would in the future, but then setting it up in Typeform. I had a 1-hour call with the SME on this together with him, and then I threw it into ChatGPT, formulated the questions, the scoring, put that into a Typeform, and then we were able to publish it within like a day and a half of work in total. And then, okay, this works. We could see that within a week. Okay, now we start. And then it took us literally 9 months to set up the full assessment in the right way. It's like it's a crazy great MQL lead driver right now, but like if we would have taken 9 months to set it up, and like we learned several things, even from that 1 week experiment of how to position it the best way. What are the questions that are really hard? Like that was in that 1 week. So that also made the other 9 months more valuable. But yeah, otherwise it could have cost us 9 months and then turn out into nothing.
Yeah, I understand. So I'm going to take a little detour because just briefly, you're the co-author of Growing Happy Clients. I'm going to say it right once again. Can you tell us a bit more about the book? And I think after we'll go back to your company and experiments. So yeah, just curious about your book and what it's about.
So for me, it's always about, I try to create as much content out there for people to learn about. I wrote this book together with Daphne, and I think we both had Daphne Tiedemann, and we both had a idea that we wanted to write a book someday. And the momentum was there, so we decided to go for it. So we wrote this book. We wanted to make it highly specific, highly useful, and so we really believe indeed in niching down. So we went for a book specifically for growth freelancers, growth consultants, on how should you be running this process, how to deal with legal, how to deal with design, how to set targets, how to set up a meeting rhythm with clients as well. How to understand the personality of your clients, etc. There are a lot of we added a lot of worksheets into it, and then like we wrote the book in 9 months, I think, and then we self-published it on Amazon. It's up there indeed, and that's just going out there, and it's weird in that sense that it's on Amazon. You don't see who is buying it or anything, but it's you hear it every now and then of people like, oh, this was really useful. Or I know a lot of the agencies, growth agencies around the world have this book like on their coffee table, just to discuss. And there's a lot of experience from me and her of a combined, I think at that time, 15 years indeed in just working with growth clients. So
nice.
That's what we did.
Do you have any tips for people who want to write a book, like a business book? Because I'm pretty sure that, the idea itself is like, oh, let's write a book, but actually it's harder than it looks like. So do you have any tips for people who want to do this?
I think Daphne did most of the editing, so I can't really say. But it's like from my perspective, it was way easier than and it's in that sense, it's indeed it's setting a structured planning for when you want to write what kind of things. How do you brainstorming together through all of different topics? I really think a co-author helped there in that sense, being an extra push to keep going, discussing things together, because it's sometimes in your head you can be spinning of what is the right way to describe this, but together you can just discuss things and then write down the best version of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the key thing afterwards as well, I would really much more focus on even going for like, what do you want the transformation to be, the book, or also if you create a course, like what do you want the transformation to be?
Yeah.
I think that also makes it easier to sell and promote later on. Well, right now, like we described everything about being a growth consultant, and it's more like from okay to great, but I miss a bit of a transformation there afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think that would be one of the tips. But I think like you can easily. It's like on Amazon, it's as easy as you upload a PDF with the right markup, and then it can already be sold. They do all the printing for you. That's the easy part. So that's the publishing. Yeah. So it's way more, I think, afterwards about how do you do the packaging? What is the message? How do you want to promote it? That's a way bigger challenge than all the other stuff. So yeah, exactly. I think Maya Voye did this really great with also like creating all the content up front and knowing how she was going to package it. And then, I think that really works to a better book that you get more out of.
Nice. Very cool.
Also social proof. She had a lot of social proof. Sean Ellis. I don't remember who exactly she got, but there was a lot of quotes and a lot of reviews before even publishing.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think you can do more of like a build in public, write in public in that sense. And I think that's a really nice one. But also like pre-selling your book, you also better understand what really clicks for people versus what doesn't. And I think in this case, we wrote a book without running an experiment beforehand of promoting it. And we basically went into the 9-month assessment.
Should have been a PDF.
You basically get a community beforehand, right? If you do it away.
Yeah.
It's like building a product openly. It's like, we're going to build this. Yeah. And then you get some people while you build, that become your advocates, your kind of your heroes. And that's, I think, a good way as well to do it. But it's a different way to do it, and it's not easy as well. So,
no, for sure. Nice. For sure not.
All right.
Shall we move into more about Growth Orange? Because, we had a story. Both of us are trying to, or at least I was trying to also build a company in that field. It's a very complex field to build a company. Like, it's one of these market situations where you have a few members, like a few competitors, but then nobody is the go-to like leader, category leader. And then on top of that, you need a very strong educational play combined with your sales motion. So I want to talk maybe a little bit more about that. We can like go back and forth with experiences and things like this. But tell us a little bit more about like Growth Orange, where you are with your journey and things like this.
So, as I mentioned, I try to give away as much content for free, always try to help as many people. After writing a lot of articles about how to do the grow process and everything, working with a lot of clients at some point, like even with clients, like I was working, like even with TikTok, like the biggest client I've worked with, multiple grow teams at once, we worked in a Google spreadsheet. And it's like sales teams have a CRM, support teams have proper tools. Everyone has it, and then we as growth teams, like we like to be hacky, and therefore everyone is working in like spreadsheets or self-built Airtable and Notion. Yeah, exactly. And it's those things are nice, but they are not purposefully built for it. Like I have this growth experiment spreadsheet on the website. I think that alone has like 3,000 downloads, and just from the blog, that's like one of the main ways how people upgrade from there. But the spreadsheet is not the best one. So at some point I thought, okay, there should be a tool that really helps you with this concept of, I want to run more experiments, have a proper process. I want to document the learnings that I have. And have everything combined in one place, because it's also like it can be way more how do you say, like
Useful.
the different things make each other synergy of gee, what a buzzword. But it's like if you put all the different elements of a growth process together in one tool, especially nowadays with AI, everything can make each other stronger. So it's like you can see which people are most active, how much time people are spending on it. You can see which kinds of insights in the beginning turned out to be the biggest revenue drivers later on. It's those kinds of insights that you can never have if you work in a spreadsheet or in Notion or Airtable, because the things are not in one place. And then also with like, if it's a purposefully built tool, you can also have, like right now we have, I call it a pretty expert feature. So it's like you can just select your experiments or say from this past time, and then with AI either create summary emails or like a full presentation, branded presentation, which is a one-click export. And that's like the stuff that you as a head of growth might have to do on a weekly scale. You have to prepare those presentations, and now it's just like 2 clicks because you have everything in one place. Mm-hmm. So it's all those kind of things, and like what are the bottlenecks in my growth process? That's what Growth Orange is for, and it's trying to bring everything there together, helping with the experiment velocity.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been a bit of my baby for the past. I've been saying that I should build it like that for 7 years. Been building it for 2 years now. I think promoting it for 1 year, and even like no, I say promoting, but I think it's still just in a few mentioned in a few blogs. It's not even really out there. Didn't do any SEO or anything or ads for it. But we just crossed 1.5K MRR. I'm fine with it. A lot of people are using it very happily, and so it's a slow growth, but this is more of the long-term play. I also think like I make several mistakes there from what I would advise for like a high growth company, and like on purpose I go a different route. So that's like it could be like a whole podcast episode on its own. Happy to dive in, but that's what Growth Orange is now, and it's just iterating and building it further. I don't need to make it a big thing or anything.
Right. So it's more like a lifestyle business for you in that case.
Oh, I think that's a bit too much to say. No, it's because there are a few like bigger companies with 20 people in there of like bigger growth teams. Yeah. So it is a serious tool in that sense. But I won't grow the business to be like a unicorn with investment or anything. Yeah. It's just it's a bootstrap company, and I know like I like the niche. I want to stay within the niche, and I definitely believe that if I would be expanding into like CRO teams, or product growth, like you get into a whole different niche.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the focus is still on growth teams. It's set up to be able to be used by the others, but this is like the niching down and staying there. Yeah. That's where I think. Otherwise, I could have built Airtable. Like,
what are the main challenges that you find now?
Yeah, it's the educational part. The educational, it's once it clicks for people, like more experiments equals more growth, and like how that process works, then suddenly it's like, if that's what I should be pushing for, then a spreadsheet is not enough anymore. And so it's that education part. So I've been working on that for too long already, but never dedicated enough on pushing it into Growth Orange.
There is indeed a lot of, and I think that's always a problem for blue oceans or purple oceans or whatever you want to call it. You always need to position yourself against that alternative. It's the positioning of April Dunford. For people who didn't listen to that episode, I would highly recommend you to do so, because she's positioning a milkshake to breakfast because it's easy. You can consume it in the car and things like this. I feel like that's a learning for every CEO and marketing team when you are in such market situation to really go against the current segment or the competitor itself. I feel like there's also quite some problems with the understanding of people in regard to growth. And I want to ask further down, because growth is so complex, as you mentioned, product growth, zero whatsoever. How do you manage to niche down So that's thing number one. And then the second thing is, even when you niche down, there are already processes that are in place. So sometimes you just got to disrupt them, right? Because it's inappropriate setting up of the experimentation program or whatsoever. Let's just dive maybe a little bit more in there. How do you manage to do that with the two combined? I assume you also do consulting on the side. Maybe that's a way to go when you want to have a strong educational place with your tool. So
yeah. No, so the tool is made to be used just as self-serve, not in combination with consulting or anything. I think there's always an alternative. There's always a way how you're currently solving a problem. Also, like not solving it is also like an alternative option. So yes, in this case, it's spreadsheets and it's Notion, and so that's where like running a growth process or running experiments at all, that's not a problem that you fix with this, because there's hardly anything wrong with this whole process. I also spoke with some other big head of growth and head of experimentations, and they would have like this great Airtable build out, and then even then at some point they were like, okay, this just became too big, too unuseful. We literally went back to just a spreadsheet, and everything is keeping track of it, and it's still fine. So it's like that. But I think in this case, you have to people have to want to get more out of it. It's the more professional side of the growth playing field, and it's a different way of what you want to get out of it. But it's Notion, Airtable, spreadsheet. Those are the big competitors in this sense.
I think it's interesting because in all the companies I've worked previously, I've always run some type of growth experiment. So it could be on Notion, different tools or whatever. Yeah. What I've seen for me, but that's my example, is like the biggest blocker of having these kind of tools in a company is stakeholder management and the mindset of the company. So the first company I work with, the founders like, we want everything around agile experimentation, but it wasn't only a marketing thing or a growth thing. It was also the product design, sales. Everybody worked, and we worked really well together because everything was interlinked. So then it works really well. The moment that you move to a company where your manager or the CEO or the company doesn't have this growth mindset, I find it's a bit hard to have a proper like strong growth engine, from experimentation, because they're gonna be like, but don't do this, let's go for this. And, they don't have the time, they don't understand it. And for me, I think that's the biggest blocker from my experience for us from companies that, that can't do it properly.
There is also another thing, at least back from my days, a lot of founders and heads of marketing or heads of growth also want their dev team to be in the same platform as the experimentation team, which is hard for you to embed a whole company into your app while your infrastructure is building for, 5 people maximum, 10 people. But then it's also, I think, as a founder, it's up to you to say, no, I'm not going to go after this ICP because of behavior A, B, C that doesn't fit with the type of people who just gets it, which is, one of the things I feel like we as TGS are trying to scream from the top of the mountain, like focus on one ICP that is with the exact behavior that just gets it. And the rest of the things are nice to have, even if you, like a simple thing that you can do, just ask for the person, okay, I'll build it, but can you pay up front? And they say, build it first. It's a total no-go for me. At least that's a major learning on that side.
Indeed. Yeah, definitely. I've seen like you're one of many companies I've seen over the past years who created a tool like this. Sean Ellis also built one, of course, growthhackers.com, and then he also sold it also with the saying like it's a nice tool, but it's like both market is not like ready to jump on top of it, but it's also like the market isn't huge. So I think in that sense, it's the bootstrapped. You should want to stay in this niche to be able to grow it. And it's like a big thing is that a lot of people are asking as well. We're building now an integration with. We already have the integrations with Make and Zapier so that you can cross-reference the tasks with any Asana or Notion or anything else where you have it anywhere else. But that's indeed it's the I notice it a lot. Like if I'm in a demo call with someone asking a question like that, it's also like I from a consultancy perspective as well, when I come in with a client and they already have like a big Asana or anything that the whole company is already working in, like I'm not going to recommend you to try and pull everyone in here. It's like you can keep your experiments in here, then write down the tasks that need to be done as a checklist for the sake of the experiment. But then during your weekly meetings, you have to tell the rest of the team what the tasks are. If necessary, you have to put them in Asana for them. You have to do the cross-referencing. It's not the tool made for the whole team or company to collaborate in. It's for pushing experiments and documenting learnings. That's where it's most useful, but it's not for team collaboration. That's a different kind of tool.
So what are your goals then for this year for Growth Orange?
So for this year, I'm actually focused on building the Grow with Ward brand more. That's my main focus, getting more content out there, seeing where other players like you guys are also creating more content, taking a place in this space. I think I have been one of the bigger growth names for a very long time, but I think I've been pretty quiet for a long time as well. But I truly believe that if you give value, create content, then it will come back over time, like a karma game. So I think I've been too quiet there and too much in a building mode. So now more into creating free content out there again.
Nice.
Maybe Growth Orange, but not even like a main.
It's not your main priority.
Well, it's for me like Growth Orange is one of the ways how I can help people. I think in the first place of who is my audience, what problems do they have? Then I create content, and then if it happens to be Growth Orange, that's one way. But I also have noticed like. For many cases, trying to different problems need different solutions. And indeed, sometimes it's DIY, sometimes it's more consultancy, sometimes it's courses or SaaS. And I think a lot of companies indeed know what kind of company they are building. Then they say, oh yeah, but I look at my audience and what problems they have. And then how can we solve those problems? But like if you're a SaaS company and then you're going to try to fix problems that are more on a educational level, indeed, you're not going to solve it with a SaaS. It's just not. You listen to them and then you ignore them again. So it's like
I get that.
you made it fit your picture. So that's where I'm more in the. As long as I solve problems, I'm fine.
Nice.
That's the benefit of the low overhead as a business.
Yeah, perfect. Let's.
I was just going to ask one last thing before we jump in. If you ever got another idea and you happen to experience the same market conditions, are you going to dive in, like with the knowledge that you have, to dive in again head first, or are you going to say, okay, this is not the type of field that I want to invest my time and resources?
But like Growth Orange, you mean?
Yeah.
No, definitely. It's to me, I know the audience, I know the problem, I know the vision that I have as a what is the kind of stuff I want to help with. Mm-hmm. That is still aligned. But if I assume I will be writing a few more books as well. Creating courses anyway, so that's all. But it's for me, it's nice. It's all within the same Grow with Word ecosystem, indeed. So it doesn't matter to me. It's in the long run, I have no doubt that Growth Orange pays for itself, even though I put an immense, unreasonable amount of time into it. Like no VC would ever fund this. But for me, it will pay itself back because I have years to see the return. That's fine.
Nice. Cool. Okay, let's move to the next section. So this is kind of a fixed Q&A. So it's like 4-5 questions we ask every guest. It's not rapid fire, but it's like short answers. Yep. Okay. All right. So the first one is, what's a controversial opinion that you have?
Analytics is dying, I think, at this point. So it's any like hard data, like measuring it in the right way, it's becoming a main bottleneck for a lot of companies. Like they make huge projects out of it. And I think with privacy settings, ad blockers, everything in there, it becomes like almost impossible to actually measure it correctly because it's not in the user's best interest. So I think like soft data, user feedback, qualitative info, that is becoming way more important because it's in most cases, you might know hard data tells you what is going wrong or where it's going wrong, but it's not telling you why it's going wrong. So great if you know why, that a website is not converting, but you don't know why it's not converting. You can't fix it. So I think hard data is dead, but that's for your guys to quote if you want to promote it. But I think it's data driven growth hacking it's also changing to source data.
Yeah. Because you used to be able to measure way more as well, like 10, 15 years ago than you do now. And it's just going to be less and less. Yeah, totally with you. So what is your biggest fuck up?
That's always hard.
It's
always hard.
Yeah, indeed.
Could be like something that you, even like an experiment that you run, that you were convinced was going to work but didn't work, or, could be things like that as well.
No, I think either biggest fuck ups are either just not seeing enough things through. I think I've worked with a lot of with the book. Like we launched the book, and then we didn't fully take everything out of it. Same goes with all of the content that I have. In that sense, it's like a lot of stuff is great for people, and then there is no way to continue. Like I have a 15,000 people email list who never got one email except the confirmation email that they were on the list. I just never got to setting up the newsletter, and it could have been the biggest newsletter in the space, but it just didn't do it. So I think like the biggest fuck up in that sense is like great kickstarting and then not finishing it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Nice. Who do you learn from the most?
In general, you mean, or any?
Yeah, it could be like, of course, those things change, right? But maybe lately, is there a person that you learn?
Your family as well is a solid answer.
Yeah, I think. I want to give you a proper answer here that it's easy to. I think this doubts can be edited out, but it's the
for sure.
No, I think I learned the most lately from more specialist podcasts, specialist blogs, where it's people are a lot more going in depth in their specific case. So I feel like a lot of the growth content is too generic to open, or it is very advanced conceptual thinking. And I noticed that I find a lot lately in listening to more podcasts about topics that you didn't think of. So it's more in the either bootstrap founder kind of podcast where there can be way more in-depth knowledge there, or people going very much in-depth on the AI SEO kind of place. I think those are those are more the directions that I'm looking at nowadays.
Okay, makes sense. What is your favorite tool? So let's say 2024, 2025.
Yeah, that's still Canva. That's like it's like I don't know. Like most as I mentioned, like I think Growth Orange is a great tool, but it's even then like if I also acknowledge when that is an overkill, and for some clients it's indeed just a spreadsheet of what are we going to do next. That's fine, but it's just the ease of being able to create visuals and I think all the AI tools nowadays are good enough to create great written content. So there's no challenges there. It's just Canva I don't think there's any competitor that's on a similar level.
Yeah. Nice. And the last one is, what is one advice that you would give a growth leader?
To a growth leader, it's experiment velocity. It's the quantity over quality, and then if you keep the quality guardrails in place of like we should have proper thinking behind this and what's next, but otherwise it's just push, just keep going. And I think there's way too much knowledge, way too much people telling you the different directions to go. Well, I think if you wouldn't listen to anyone, you wouldn't do any deep dive information, and you would just be going, you are getting so much further than a lot of the other companies are getting, even with the best consultants or agencies. I think it's if you're just going, that you're already doing better than 99%.
Nice. All right. Next section, George. You want to take it?
Yeah, sure. So right now it's time to give our kudos and face palms. We always give it to the guests just because we don't want to steal any kudos or face palms. So, Ward?
I think a facepalm from last week has been this graph from Ahrefs going out there with like how HubSpot was dying in SEO and how or SEO is dead. It's like those kinds of conclusions that was so way too quick. People looking at just one metric, seeing one chart, and it's like SEO is dead. The great HubSpot is dead. Well, at the same time, like
they just remove pages.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also like a lot of the traffic went to other websites.
Yeah.
So it's not SEO is dying. I think SEO is shifting a lot. So it wouldn't be surprised if Google was preferring other players than HubSpot. HubSpot has also shared that they have their traffic is fine in that sense of like the keywords that are most important. You can check that they are still out there.
Exactly.
It's I think people jumping on top of it and really changing it that way. That's a facepalm in that sense.
Yeah.
Just overlooking a lot of details. Kudos. Thinking. Any great kudos? Kudos of this week or any other week simply goes to my wife and being at home with our child, with our son. He's doing great, she's doing great, and it's they brighten up my day every day. So that's my
Nice.
Good kudos.
Well, actually, my kudo is about what you just mentioned as a facepalm.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give the kudo to Ahrefs.
Yeah.
It's actually something that we noticed a bit more lately. I think it also comes from Ahrefs, but also from Team Solo, that obviously they're an SEO tool, but they, I think, invest more and more in thought leadership. And actually, if you think about the HubSpot thing, everybody's jumped on it.
Yeah.
But every old person also gave a screenshot of Ahrefs. Everybody's talking about SEMrush.
Except everything that was owned by SEMrush, they only used SEMrush charts and didn't give credits. Yeah.
But I think it was pretty good play actually from Team Solo. He also mentioned like a few weeks ago that almost half of all the searches on Google were branded search.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's a bit more. Yeah, you agree or you don't, but I think it's getting people to talk more about Ahrefs, or at least I see it way more lately.
Yeah.
So I think I'm actually giving the kudos to this, and I definitely don't have a facepalm right now. So George, if you want to jump on yours.
All right. The kudos this time is a little bit internal because I feel like we're forming our little growth team, if you want to call it. I feel like we also last year we managed to go almost like from zero to a hero. So now it's a matter of us to scale. We're also launching a few things like the community this week. So I'm super pumped for that one. And the courage is the way of work and how we collaborate with each other. For instance, my expertise is more on the inbound side, and we have a performance lead that just got hired. And also we're hiring more people as well. So I need to put this thing out. So yeah, that's the kudos. And the facepalm is particularly to the business model of community, because I feel like a lot of people start launching communities, and I started noticing it more and more because it's my own responsibility. Like I lead the project for the Growth Syndicate, right? So I need to get used to the business model and so all of these things. So I started noticing a lot of people launching communities just for the sake of it, underestimating the complexity around it. And also they're doing it either free, which is, I don't have any problems with free communities, but it's more like been part of free communities, events, conferences over these past 4 years, and you definitely see decreasing quality. And I feel like something that it's my personal mission is to focus on the quality, at least, of our own community. So just
and you can say it as well, by the time that we will go live with this episode, the community will be live.
Yeah, well,
so you can
tell me more what it's about. I've been curious about what kind of a community it is.
What is your pitch?
Yeah, man, come on.
Yeah, so we decided to bridge the gap that is currently happening on the market. You see these companies that either have a great community, they're interacting with each other, but they skip the expertise part of it. So what does that mean is that they will just leave it to the community to share the insights or whatsoever, but where the courses are missing or some other workshops and whatsoever are missing to continue pushing that knowledge needle further, while this is on one side, and then on the other side you have purely an audience-based products, which is just courses without any community. People want to interact. I feel like there is a great hunger for connections and making meaningful connections on a higher note. And just an example, I think I shared a message to the head of growth marketing of Mansflow the other day, and I asked him for a tool that is related to Unbound and whatsoever. And just the feeling of having this comfort to talk to someone who is that specialized and that seasoned and that hands-on, it's through it's through the sky. And I feel like the ROI out of it is great as well. Also, if I take a look at all of the courses that I have taken, they're a little bit limited to a certain degree. So I feel like that initial connection that even we have in this room is making me learn so much more from any other course. But that's on a high end. That's why we decided to build it. And then what is in the community, well, we have marketplace with templates, playbooks from other people in the trenches. So you can come, you can upload your own playbook, and you can share, for instance, the Pro Launch template of Hubs, one of the companies that Ferdi and Clem took major part in their growth journey. We have courses that we're making. I'm making an experimentation one, as we're actually on this topic. Clem is making one on market expansion. We have some other very cool ones coming as well. And of course, we're trying to connect people as much as possible. So that's on the lower tier. And then on the higher tier, we have peer-to-peer groups, even more exclusive events and workshops. So we actually scheduled our first one as well for February. So I'm excited to see where this new venture is going to. Yeah.
But what is really like a vetted B2B community where you're gonna have to apply and we're gonna have to accept people. So we want people with experience, people who've done it before that can reshare the knowledge. Mm-hmm. So we really try to get this community, really active. Yeah. We're not reaching for having like 1 million users and just, stuff it. Yeah. It's more about quality than quantity. And I think there's a room for that. And then exactly, we want to let people who join can also share their experience or create a course, create a template, things like this, just to help the B2B community.
Co-creation rather than shoving information in the mouth of people, and also trying to take a little bit more informal approach. You've been to our meetup, so vibes are there, or at least I hope that the vibes are there. People are having a great laugh, eating some pizza, having fun, and feeling safe, which is something that I miss from a lot of conferences and other events that I went to. So that's pretty much it. Yeah. Make sure to check it out.
Damn, that's mouthful. Cool.
That's cool. We have. Do you still have some time?
Yeah, sure. Following the post.
Okay, cool. Now it's time to talk about your LinkedIn post, and I picked the one from the Sprints and Sneakers Growth Festival. That was 5 months or 6 months ago, and something that something that just resonated with me is that retention is the new king. Mm-hmm. So I would like to ask you, why do you think this is? Why do you think retention is the way to go in 2025?
A few reasons. Okay, so I think retention is king in that sense that if you keep people in for longer, you have more opportunities for upselling. You have a way higher lifetime value. If you manage to achieve that, you can also spend more in acquisition. So, like that's how you can win the acquisition play. But it's only if you have the retention done well. Yeah. At the same time, it's also like from a karma game perspective, it's if you create more value than you give, you will be growing. So as long as you help people, then people will stay with you. So if you keep your eye on that North Star of helping others, your retention will be high, as long as you have a few basic foundations in place. So that's also a bit of what I talk about in the post or presented back then. It's like the combination of activation and retention of are you able to give people the value and also explain to them what the value is that you're giving? Yep. It's a combination of those things, and you have to be able to set those up correctly. And I think nowadays with a lot of channels really like being put upside down of how they work, like SEO, but also like social is getting more and more crowded. Advertising costs are spinning higher and higher. It's like you cannot keep outspending just for the sake of it. So like, and also with more downward going, economies, it's also like retention is necessary to even exist as a company. And I think nobody is like specializing in retention as a company. There's like a profit well who even goes for a bit of monetization. Lots of people are talking about acquisition. There are tools for referrals. There's no one is really going for like how to properly do retention. I think it is crazy. I think it's more of an afterthought for a lot of companies. Companies pull it into a product and development, and then it comes a part of like the CTO's role sometimes, or like a head of product, and it's like it's part of the marketing journey almost, and then but CMOs don't have their hands on it, so it's like and if it goes into indeed, I think a lot of the development teams, they are swamped with a lot of other development tasks. Waterfall planning are way too long to be able to quickly iterate and run experiments in there. So yeah, that's where retention is completely out of line right now with any of the other major parts, and it's a necessity for the upcoming years, I think.
Yeah, I think it's something we see as well with a lot of companies is when you create your company, obviously the main focus is acquisition, right? Because if you don't have clients, retention doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But what you see as well, I think a lot with VC-backed companies is that, the first round, seed round, series A is like, how can we acquire? Yeah. And then after that, okay, now if you want to go to the next step, you have to show that you can retain your clients and reduce the churn. And I think then you have kind of a switch. But like, I think marketing teams focus a lot on the first part as acquisition, because I think a lot of companies don't know who kind of should own kind of retention, because often now you're like, okay, it falls on the product, customer success or customer support. And like marketing doesn't play a big role there, or growth teams don't play a big role there.
Yeah, exactly. And we see like a bad retention is more of like if we have a good product, people will stay. So it's like retention only goes bad if we create bugs or bad things inside the product. Yeah. Except of like it's like value, habits, those things need to be in there. Yeah. And otherwise they don't exist. But indeed, it's like pirate funnel. And then like in the beginning, people, for the sake of a pirate funnel exercise, you will look at retention. But I also advise like you need to look at all the way at the beginning, just manage to get clients at all, manage to make any money at all. Yeah. But like the real growth is always in revenue, retention, referral. Are you able to upsell people? Upsell indeed. I think like how many times, like especially here in Europe, how often do we talk about like net revenue retention? If you are able to like increase revenue from your current customers year over year, it's like a metric that isn't even talked about at all here in the Netherlands. So
I think that should be a foundational mindset, even when you are building your MVP. If you think about it, if you go retention first, then things get so much simpler from day one, or at least my belief. So
retention is not. It's very hard to measure. It's hard to make a strong case if you have low numbers that something really drove retention. So this is also the part where like the soft data overrules the hard data, because it's way more of understanding what is driving people to stay or go away. And then that's indeed what is key with retention, but still you need to make it apart. I think that's also one of the reasons indeed why product and development also cannot really push on retention, because it's so hard to get a grip on the metrics, and that's what they like. But that doesn't work there. It's you need like a marketing play in that part as well.
Just before we go in, I want to loop in the episode with Leah Tarin. We had her on our podcast, and she indeed speaks about who should own retention and how to make cross-functional goals. So I don't want to spoil it. Just go watch it. It's a great episode about cross-functional alignment and things like this.
Nice.
Cool. Shall we wrap it up with rapid fire?
Yeah. Last section.
Okay. Do you want to go?
No, go for it.
All right. Ray?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, Ward, would you rather be a consultant or a founder?
Founder.
Marketing funnel versus the growth hacking one.
What do you mean, marketing funnel versus?
So, both for TOEFL, let's say.
Versus what else then?
Versus the
are there different funnels?
Well, versus the growth hacking one. So like
the pirate funnel.
Yeah.
I think they have their own place at different times. Like if you push growth, use that growth funnel. If you are looking at only the marketing side, then like as a next step, then you take the marketing funnel. Yeah.
That's a great action. That's a great tip. Okay, one thing that makes your growth team remarkable. Anything or like okay. So I heard this great story a few weeks ago on the Len Waszczycki podcast with I believe the CPO of Shopify. Yeah.
They are really proud of how many things they are killing. So like they have this contest internally of like which developers deleted the most amount of code of like stuff that is not working. I think that's like a great analogy for growth teams. Like strive to kill as many ideas as possible. Like that pushes you to run more experiments, but then also to only go for the things that are really working. So I think that's like what makes a great growth team is pushing and killing.
I love it. What is your favorite growth tactic? Like your go-to, let's say.
What stage? Yeah, this highly depends on different stages of like a growth funnel.
The one you enjoy the most, then the one that you have a particular affinity.
Yeah, I think it is. I think in that sense, it's like content upgrades is in that sense. Like if you go from giving free stuff away to people and then you have a paid product, like in between you want to have something, and it's like not that I like gated content or anything, but it's like it can be so magical if you can have great free content, then you can have even better content upgrade that like perfectly aligns. Like I have a Pirate Funnel article, and then there is like what is a Pirate Funnel, how to do it. Oh, here, by the way, here's a Pirate Funnel canvas, how you can execute it by yourself. That's like such a perfect alignment that it's like a 40% of people who write and read the article also upgrade. That's like an insane amount. And then if you can create like a content upgrade that is also then like the next step is like, oh great, now you know what your bottleneck is, and it's like a one click to go into Growth Orange and like set up that is now your goal, your one metric. Now start a brainstorm. It's like if that flow goes smoothly, it's pure value.
Yeah.
It's pure perfect onboarding. You don't have to do any selling, any education, and people do it for themselves.
Yeah.
I think like having good content upgrades makes such a difference for value-packed companies.
Yeah.
Great. One skill that each marketing leader needs to acquire in 2025.
Let's go for, okay, if you can ask the question again, I think we make the editing a bit easier.
Okay. One skill that each marketing leader needs to acquire in 2025.
I think that's not giving a fuck about perfectionism, about being the perfect kind of quality. It's just shipping things. Use AI as much as you can to just crank out as much.
Yeah.
And then I think that's the main thing. And then
there is always
being able to deliver that to the rest of your management team.
There is always time for improvement. So, lastly, acquisition or retention?
Yeah, this highly depends on the stage of company indeed. Otherwise, always go for retention because it's closer to giving value to people.
All right, awesome.
Well, thank you very much. Is it like a last thing, a shout out, something you want to say before we close the episode?
No, I think a shout out is you guys doing great stuff. Really looking forward to the community, seeing what it will be, and hopefully it can stay for decades around. So yeah, thanks guys.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Happy to be there.